Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Movie Masters podcast. I'm your host, Movie Master Mike, and today I'm joined by my good friend Deebs.
Hello, M3.
All right, today we're going to be talking about Star Wars, and specifically the new Disney Star Wars. But obviously, we'll be talking about going back to the old trilogy, the prequel trilogy, cartoons and stuff like that. But mostly, we're going to focus on this new one. Episode 9's about to come out, it probably comes out tomorrow night. At the time of this recording, Thursday night is when it comes out. But before we get started, let's talk about what Star Wars means to us, how we got into it, when we got into it, some of our favorites and stuff. So I'll let you go first.
I don't even know. I mean, my dad had them on Laserdisc, and I just remember watching them a lot when I was a kid. So I've definitely been watching them since I was probably at least 5 or so. They're definitely a movie that I would pop in all the time, and I still pop the original trilogy in at least once a year. For me, I'm not sure which one my favorite of the original trilogy is. Empire Strikes Back's obviously really good, but I always had a soft spot for Return of the Jedi. That last battle scene was just so good. All the stuff going on in space while you got the little battle going down Endor. So yeah, probably Return of the Jedi would be my favorite, personally.
Okay.
I mean, the original trilogy is definitely, it's part of my childhood. It's got a certain style to it that I feel like they've failed to capture in pretty much anything Star Wars since then.
Okay, yeah, mine's similar. I don't remember the first time I watched it. I don't remember the first time I fell in love with it or anything, but I do remember having memories of it. When I first thought I saw it, I was like, oh, this is all familiar to me. It's I'd obviously seen it before. But I don't think we owned it on VHS until I think it was 96 when they did the THX cleanup on VHS and re-released them on VHS, and I think that's when we first bought them on VHS. So, I know I had friends that had it because they had the first VHSs with the sloppy art style that they had for their posters back then. But and then obviously 97 with the special editions came out, I went and saw them in theaters. And it was huge to me in 96, 97.
Getting to see him in theater. Yeah, I remember that was exciting because I was still pretty young back then. I would have been 11 or something, and those are movies that I love those movies. So getting a chance to see them in theaters was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I love the sounds of Star Wars, especially the TIE Fighter sound, the scream of the TIE Fighter. So seeing that on the big screen for the first time was awesome.
Yeah. The TIE Fighter sound again? It's like an elephant scream.
I forget. I've listened to Ben Burt on his commentaries and stuff, but I forget what the sounds were that he used. But
yeah, Star Wars does have a cool sound.
Yeah, but I agree. The look, the feel hasn't been captured since the original trilogy. And just like you, Empire's the best movie.
I just love the last battle scene. It was so epic back then.
Yeah, but Return of the Jedi does hold a special place in my heart. That's the one I watched the most. But I think because it had the most action, it had the biggest space battle, it had the biggest lightsaber battle, it had the forest moon, which growing up in the desert of Arizona, the forest was always something I longed for. So when they went to Endor, I always really loved it because it was something I had never really seen except for up in the mountains. But so
That's
yeah,
interesting.
So
I
yeah,
never thought about that.
So yeah, Return of the Jedi was definitely the one I watched the most as a child, and I think I'm in the minority when I say I love Ewoks.
You probably are. I think Ewoks. I don't dislike Ewoks. I think it's just funny that they're almost like little children in suits, fighting grown men. So when the Ewoks go out there and they swing their weapons out, it doesn't really feel like they're putting all their weight into it. It feels like they're gently tapping it like they're playing or something. And of course the stormtroopers have to fall over and die.
Yeah, it's definitely
I felt bad when
cheesy.
that one Ewok died.
Yeah, do you think that more died, or just one Ewok died, or do you think that's just the one that we focused on to let kids in the audience know that yes, this is dangerous. One of them died. We're gonna dwell on it for a second, but we're not going to show you all the other deaths. But do you think there were other deaths?
I think there had to have been.
Yeah, there had to have been. I
Stormtroopers
agree.
aren't. They're not that incompetent. They're only against the characters.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All
But
right.
yeah, they had to point one out just to know that we're at a low point in the battle. Things aren't looking good.
Right. Exactly. All right. So, what about the prequel trilogy? What did you feel about those movies?
Mixed feelings. Like I know not a lot of people. Some people hate them all. But I personally like Episode 3. I thought it was pretty good. I think overall they did a good job of showing like Anakin's downfall, him turning. Like I like that aspect of it. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Episode 2 is just trash. There's not much good about it. Episode 1 it's entertaining. It's not the best. There's a lot of weird plot points that are really not written that well. Nobody likes Jar Jar Binks, but like as a whole, I think it's okay. I don't hate it. So I guess it'd be like episode 1, it's okay. Episode 2 is horrible. I like episode 3. As a whole, like I feel like my opinions have changed over time. Because like at one point, like those movies all suck, and then it's like some of them are okay. But like nowadays, we talk about like the Force Awakening coming out, and a lot of people complain that it's just more of the same. We've seen that before. It's just a remake of A New Hope, and everybody's like, "Well, I hope the next one is not just a remake of The Empire Strikes Back." So it's like we go back to the prequel, and it's like you can't help but appreciate that George Lucas at least tried to do something a little bit different.
I completely agree. I think episode one is my favorite of the three, and probably because I've seen it the most. It came out when I was still a bit younger. It came out in '99. It was the last day of school of my sixth grade year, so I wasn't
That's
really
crazy.
like, yeah, I wasn't really like playing with toys still really, but I was still young enough to like appreciate like, like Star Wars. It was still like, just 2 years earlier, I was like super duper into Star Wars with the special editions and stuff and toys. So I was young enough, but yeah, episode two is definitely the worst. I don't like episode two very much. And episode three, I think it has its moments and stuff, but like overall, I'm not a huge fan. But yeah, episode one is just, I think it's just because I was young enough to like still love it, and I've seen it the most. I played the game and stuff, so episode one just kind of, and
Mhm.
I just think it feels more like Star Wars than the other two.
Man, it's a good adventure movie. They cover a couple planets, and
Right.
like I said, I don't hate it. Like I thought pod racing was cool.
Yeah, that's great. I love that scene. I love the
Um,
sounds.
I mean, some of the things I hated was like in the end when Anakin, oops, what does this button do? Haha, I destroyed your fleet. It's like
Yeah.
the things he accidentally did in the end. I didn't like. Like it was supposed to be kind of campy, I guess. But I just didn't like that.
Yeah, they should have made
But
Anakin more
like
competent.
Duels with Fate was is amazing.
Yes.
I very much like the entire lightsaber battle in that movie. The way
Yes.
it's between that going on and the others having their blaster fight and stuff. That was a really good ending scene overall.
Yeah. It's interesting that in A New Hope there was one thing happening at the end: destroy the Death Star.
Hmm.
And then in episode five, there were two things happening: the lightsaber duel, and then Leia and company like trying to do whatever they were doing.
Rescue
And
Han.
right, yeah, and then in Return of the Jedi, there was the lightsaber duel, the space battle, and the ground battle. And then in episode one, there was the lightsaber battle, the ground battle, the space battle, and the Queen trying to get to the Viceroy. So there was four things happening. So it was like Lucas was just like upping himself every time.
Never thought about that. You are right.
All right. Well, did you ever watch any of the cartoons?
You talking about the like Clone Wars and whatnot?
Yeah, just any of them, because there's a handful of cartoon shows.
Overall, not really. Actually, I haven't watched any of the Star Wars cartoons. I've only seen little bits and pieces.
All right,
I
'cause
do, I do, I do want to watch Clone Wars though. I'll have to find a way to do that.
All right, because I own Droids and Ewoks on DVD, the 8 episodes that they've released on DVD. And in the 90s, they released like 4 episodes on VHS. Like they spliced them together to make a mini like movie for VHS. And I had the Ewoks one, so and those same 4 are on the DVD, but those shows are like for little kids. Like they're really bad. It's like Smurf level, like. But you know, I enjoyed them in the 90s and stuff. But
what's the one Ewok's name again?
Wicket.
Yeah, what he has a saying, doesn't he?
Oh,
Like
he would always say.
I used to say it a lot when I'm playing games. Well, I can't remember it now.
Yeah, it. I think technically, like in like the language that Ben Bird or whoever wrote it, the language it means freedom. But in the cartoon show, they would just use it willy nilly. It was hilarious. Oh darn, what was it?
I feel like
It's in the song from the original Return of the Jedi. Like it's part of the lyrics of the song that they sing.
the original one though, or the replaced version.
The original version, the one where the Ewoks actually sing Yub Nub.
Yeah, Yub Nub. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Yub Nub. Yeah, in the cartoon show, it was like a battle cry, Yub Nub, like, and it just meant everything. It was hilarious. They're like, hey, let's go for a walk in the woods, Yub Nub. Like, it was so stupid. Like knowing that it means freedom based on the actual like written language for Return of the Jedi. Knowing that, like, they just use it in improper ways in the cartoon show.
What's it? You know, it's all in context. He's saying that we have the freedom to go for this walk. Yub Nub.
Yeah, Yub Nub. Yeah, yep.
I'm gonna reincorporate that into my vocabulary.
But there was Star Wars Clone Wars, the micro animated series by the animator creator who did Samurai Jack. Did you ever watch that one?
That was not the CGI one?
No, there was like a traditional animation one. It came out in like 03 or 4, like right before episode 3 came out. And the first season was like a few episodes, I forget how many episodes, of like little shorts of like a couple of minutes each. And then season 2, the little stories were like 5 minutes each, I think.
I thought that started as a CG like movie in theaters, and then it went on to the TV show.
No, that's the Clone Wars. This was just called Star Wars Clone Wars. The word "the" isn't in it.
Doesn't ring a bell for me. I haven't really seen too many of those spin-off.
Yeah, it's actually really good. This micro series. It had 2 seasons. The first one, the episodes were very short. In the second season, they were a little bit longer, but still not like a full like length episode. And it's super awesome. It's ridiculous. Like, there's an episode where Mace Windu. There's an episode where Mace Windu fights like 10,000 droids, and like he doesn't even have his lightsaber. He like jumps a mile to like get some water from a kid, then jumps a mile back into the battle. And he's like using like super kung fu fist to like destroy all these droids. Like, it's awesome to watch, but it's like ridiculous, overpowered Jedi.
Kind of like that one game that came out. I think it was
The Force Unleashed.
Yeah, Unleashed. I was thinking Awaken, but like that's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unleashed. Yeah, his name was Starkiller. I think he was pretty over the top.
Yes, definitely. But that
considering he was actually like he actually was with Darth Vader too, so it's not like he was some kind of spin-off character in a totally unrelated thing. We actually have him, somebody that we know from Star Wars movies, to base his power off of. And yeah, he was pretty nuts. Yeah, I'm looking at the cover for that show. Artwork does actually look familiar, but I don't think I ever really watched it.
It's good. It's worth a watch, and it doesn't take very long because the episodes are so short. But it was good, and it introduced Grievous. Like, he was really awesome on the show. Like, these Jedi are like trapped in like a downed spaceship, and he's like, it's like a horror movie. He's like picking them off one by one and like taking their lightsabers, and it shows like the last episode is him like kidnapping the Chancellor, and then episode 3 starts where they go to rescue the Chancellor. So it was like,
So he actually started there.
yeah, and like
How much involvement there was with George Lucas for these then?
I want to say not much. Like, it's not actually canon. Like the CGI, the Clone Wars is supposed to be canon. This one isn't, but you can take it as if you want to. But like, it shows 3PO getting his plating, because remember in episode 1 he was like naked. You could see his wiring and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe in episode 2 his plating is like just gray. So in the cartoon micro series, he gets his gold plating. But anyway, yeah, then
There's a comic for that too.
possibly. But then there's The Clone Wars, which, yeah, the movie is like the first 4 episodes kind of spliced together, and it's not very good. The animation is still crude. The series gets better. There are some really, really good episodes. There are some really bad episodes, usually the ones that focus just on the droids, like 3PO and R2, or the ones that focus on Jar Jar are all really bad.
I mean, it's Jar Jar.
Yeah. But there are some really, really good episodes, and it was shown out of order. Like, not that they like made 100 episodes and then chose to show you certain ones. Like, they just made them out of order. Like, clones will die in season 2, and then in season 4 they're back. And like,
They're clones, you know.
well, no, but like this show really shows like the individuality of clones, and like they all have like different haircuts, different tattoos, different personalities and stuff. Like, they were really trying to make the clones like feel like people. But yeah, some really, really good episodes and some really, really bad episodes. But they are bringing it back to Disney Plus for whatever reason. I guess because it was more popular than Rebels. But did you watch Rebels?
Nah.
I watched.
I heard it was okay, but
Yeah, I watched season 1, and I was like, that was kind of stupid. Like, they never really left the one planet, the one city. It's like, how is this going to start a rebellion when they're they're only in one city? Like, it was lame in that aspect. Like, the Clone Wars, like, they're going all over the place, But
so are you saying they're bringing it back as a new episodes, or they're just putting it on Disney Plus?
the Clone Wars is coming back for new episodes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's been a long time though, huh?
Yeah, I think it ended in 2013, right after the Disney buyout. Something like that. But yeah, Rebels, I stopped like midway through season 2.
How many does it have? That one ended, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it ended. I think it had like 4 seasons, maybe.
I know everybody was making a big deal because there's a character in there that's from like episode 6, but he's like a total like nobody. He just happens to look like a rebel that's background of the scenes.
Probably, I don't know. Alright, but then finally we get to the new Disney Star Wars movies. And we saw episode 7 together, opening night.
We did.
And what were your thoughts?
I didn't hate it. I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part. Like, my thoughts, I didn't like... It's definitely one of those things when you sit back and think about it afterwards, there's some parts that like really weren't that good, or could have handled a lot better. I mean, things like Luke not being in the movie, the whole movie at all, sucked. Not seeing the old come back together. But like, as a whole, like, trying to... I mean, they didn't have to go this route, but trying to... the fact that they tried to bring us the old characters back so we can see them again, get them involved in a story while bringing the new characters that are going to be, the new characters, get them involved in the story. They have to introduce them. They have to kind of pass on the mantle all this stuff. Like they had a lot of things to do, and even though the movie didn't really feel like it broke new ground or anything, and there was definitely some things that were I really would have liked more explanation on, such as like where did the First Order come from? How did they build this giant ass army under the rebellions, the New Republic's nose? Things like that. Like I would have liked more explanations on that, and definitely a lot of characters could have been handled better. Like Phasma was clearly just to sell toys, instead of being an actual cool character. It, you know, outside of all that crap, I it was okay. I still enjoyed it. It was the first new Star Wars in a while, and I think at the time everybody was like, "Well, it's definitely better than the prequels were." I mean, there's some people that do straight up hate it, but overall, it was entertaining for me. But going on to the Last Jedi, it just feels like there's way too much disconnect because I don't like the Last Jedi much at all. There's very little I think good in that movie. There's too much humor. It's not well done. The situation is just silly. We got to keep going until we run out of gas. The whole casino scene was just awful, pointless. The way it ends is it just kind of ends, and it feels like, well, what's going to come next? It's like they killed everybody. There's barely anybody left to fight. So like I didn't really know where they were going to be going from there. Like compared to Episode 5, where that movie left off very clear, like what the next objective was going to be going forward. Episode 8, it's not like that at all. It just feels like, what else is left? There's like 3 bad guys left, and there's about a dozen rebels left. They didn't really set up any plot points that need to be resolved at this point. Besides, those people need to come fight at some point. And it was bad. So like The Force Awakens, it was entertaining enough for me. The Last Jedi, it was outside of great special effects, was bad.
I pretty much feel exactly the same way. Like with Episode 7, I hate that it's basically a straight, almost shot for shot remake of A New Hope. Like the same things happen in the exact same ways for the exact same character types. Like it was just like, why did they have to do that? Like why couldn't they tell an original story? And the same thing with Last Jedi. I feel like that is just a remake of Empire Strikes Back, but kind of in reverse. Like, but before I get into Last Jedi, like with Force Awakens, like you, like I enjoyed enough. Like it was a fun movie. The thing is, like the new characters, they all seemed very fun. They all had tons of charisma, tons of energy. Like when they were on screen, when Rey was on screen, like I loved it. I was smiling the whole time. She was a lot of fun, and Harrison Ford gave a great performance. He looked like he was actually having fun in a movie for the first time in like 20 years. So like the energy of the movie, the characters all gave like, good performances, and like I liked it. Like the look of it was great, the action was good, like so everything, like the designs of things were all really good. Like it was all really well done. It was just the story was a repeat. There was even a giant laser gun planet that they had to destroy, just like in A New Hope. Like it was so redundant and pointless. And I've heard people say like, oh, they had to retell the first one to get people back into Star Wars. I don't agree with that at all. If you want to get back into Star Wars, watch Star Wars. You don't have to watch a remake of Star Wars to get back into Star Wars. Like they could have just had their own story, their own original idea. And if you feel like, oh, I'm not really into Star Wars, like, well, then go back and watch Star Wars. Like if you're not into it, that's whatever. But so I don't agree with that statement at all. But for what it was great. It was well done. The characters were fun. Wanted to know more, just like you said, about like why does the First Order look exactly like the Empire? Like, is this the remnants? Is this like after the Emperor died, the galaxy kind of like forced all that stuff away, and they were into hiding, and now they're just coming back into power? Like, or was it
that is actually it? I read this somewhere, but there is actually a story about that. They are actually the remnants of the Empire, and they were basically forced to go to the edge of the galaxy and hide. and they basically kidnap kids and turn them into their stormtroopers, which is why like Finn, has been conditioned to be a stormtrooper. He's just one where it's not really working that well on him.
Right, right. And I think the Mandalorian.
But that should have been in the movie.
Yes, I totally, I
Actually
totally,
have to go get something else to find that out.
I totally agree. But in like that first 2 episodes of the Mandalorian, where he gets a job from somebody, surrounded by stormtroopers who look real gruff. They look dirty, like they don't have any money, and the dude that's actually talking to him has like a big Empire logo on his chest. So it's like, okay, these are like, think of it as like the Nazi Party, like after World War II, like people who still believed in the Nazi regime and what they were trying to do and everything were still around. Like you hear about it all the time. Like even in X-Men First Class, like he's going around chasing Nazis throughout the world, like in South America and stuff, and getting rid of them. Magneto was. So if you think about it like that, like, okay, like these people are still loyal to that idea, the Empire, and like you said, like, yeah, they were forced away and now they're slowly amassing and now they're kind of showing themselves for the first time. But again, we didn't know any of that. We don't know any of that. We still don't really know that for sure in the movies. And if you have to go somewhere else to find things out, it's not doing its job well.
That's exactly it. It's not a bad script in that sense, because it's the same thing for like the New Republic. They basically, the thing I read basically said that they were like, well, the threat's gone now, and we don't want anybody else around one of us to try to come to power. So we're just gonna basically all disarm ourselves. We're gonna have minimal armies left and stuff like that. And like Leia's the one that was constantly trying to like, no, we have to be ready for if they come back. But they don't want to invest in it, and that's why they don't have a whole lot of new technology. They're still using old ass X-wings and stuff, because she just kind of grounds you fine to prepare for when the Empire does come back. Like that makes a lot of sense. That's actually not bad, but it's not in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, all those ideas, like, they make sense. Like, okay, like the Republic is like, oh, the war's over, like we're good, and like, yeah, Leia has like this small band, the Resistance, like, but you never get a sense that like nobody believes the Resistance, that the Resistance is this very small thing, and that the First Order is like this new threat that like the Republic hasn't really seen a whole lot of. Like, we don't get any of that from these new movies. But
And that's why this is one of the things they could have done a lot better.
yeah. And then episode 8, like all those characters, like I said, like Rey had great energy, Finn had great energy, everybody was like doing really well. Like I think the worst actor in episode 7 was Leia. Not that she did like a really bad job, she just, everyone else did a better job than her. But in episode 8, I thought she did fantastic. She was my favorite character in that movie. Aside from Luke, like those two were like the best. Like maybe because I'm attached to them from my childhood, but like I thought Rey had no energy. She was not fun. Finn had no energy, wasn't fun. Rose was no fun. Poe was an idiot. Laura Dern, like, I mean, I love Laura Dern, but like nobody was doing especially well for me, energy wise, and like giving me something to attach to. And like you're right, yeah. And then Canto Bight was a huge mistake. Yeah, and then like the whole Casino Canto Bight like reminded me of the silliness of the prequels, like riding horses and oh god, and
at least we freed them. They're gonna get kidnapped again in 5 minutes.
Yeah, like she's like, it's all worth it because we freed the horses. Like, you took them like 200 yards away. They're just gonna go get them. Like, oh, it was so stupid.
I mean, the whole reason that Canto Bight scene is so terrible is that they fail at their job anyways. They don't find the code breaker. But it doesn't matter anyways, because we found another guy that could do that one thing that we need done that nobody else can do but Codebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so dumb that their objective was to get this one guy. They get put in jail. Some dude in jail says, "Yeah, I'll do it," and like they just leave with him. Like it's so stupid. Yeah, I was like, no.
That's to me is a big part of the problem with that writing in that movie is they constantly want to. Like, I feel like they try to give it the Game of Thrones subversion, where, Game of Thrones constantly catches us off guard with things that nobody would expect. Main characters dying, like all the stars getting murdered at their wedding. Like these are things that, like from a traditional writing point, nobody would ever expect it to happen.
Right.
It's just like, oh my god, like it hits you so hard. But like Game of Thrones, it's written really well, and it makes sense in that universe that would happen that way. Whereas in The Force Awakens and more The Last Jedi, it feels like it's just written in because either they want to gotcha or they just need to do it for the script forward.
Right, exactly. And when I said it's kind of like a remake of Empire Strikes Back, it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you like a plot line, and you tell me what movie it's from. A young untrained Jedi leaves their friends to go train with a self-exiled wise old Jedi master, and they start at first. The master says, "No, I'm not going to train you." Then, okay, fine, I'll train you. They train for a little bit. The young Jedi goes into a deep, dark cave, and this crazy, mysterious, trippy thing happens. And then, before they could complete their training, they leave to go save their friends. Who was I talking about?
Is that The Empire Strikes Back?
I was talking about The Last Jedi. That was Rey's storyline. But I was also talking about Luke because that's Luke's from Empire Strikes Back. Exactly. It's the exact same thing that happens, and that's the problem. Like, it's great that she's training from Luke. Like, those scenes are interesting because Luke is so good, but it's the exact same thing. Like, and like, oh, when she leaves, guess who shows up? A Force ghost. When Luke left, guess who showed up? A Force ghost to say, that boy was our last hope. No, there is another. Like, it's the exact same thing, you know?
Yeah, it was.
And then
it was.
Yeah, and then Empire opens with giant robot camels attacking a rebel base on a plane of white. And this one ends with giant robot camels attacking a rebel base on a plane of white. Like,
robot camels?
Yeah, robot camels. The AT-ATs, you know?
Yeah. I never heard them called that before.
Yeah, that's from...
I've heard the other ones called chicken walkers before.
Yeah, I think it's from Family Guy. It's one of the jokes that, like, the rebels are like, well, as long as they don't have giant robot camels, we'll be okay. Then they're like, giant robot camels.
It's fun.
But yeah, so, like, it is kind of a remake of Empire Strikes Back. It's the downer episode. You know, like, everything is messed up at the end, but it's just not done nearly as well. The characters aren't any fun. We're not, like, learning about the characters or anything. So, the fight scene in the throne room was really, really awesome.
It's good overall, but there's a few bad parts in it. Like, especially at the start, if you go watch it, there's a guy on Rey's. He's on the left side of the screen, and he's coming in. Rey's not even looking at him. He's coming in for the killing blow. He could just slice her in half, but he just kind of, like, randomly stops and, like, takes a step backwards and staggers for a second. And gives Rey time to turn around. Like, it's so bad when you notice it. Like,
right.
You have to come up with some crazy logic to explain, like, legit why that would happen. Like, oh, you know, Kylo Ren pushed him or something. Like, no, it's just bad choreography right there.
Yeah.
But overall, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I still don't. I just don't like that Rey's so good at fighting with a lightsaber.
Yeah. Yeah, she was, especially in Force Awakens, she was just too good at everything. You know, she could fix anything, she could fly anything. Like, the first time she's ever really flown, from what we could gather, like, she's never left that planet. She just scavenges, gets some food, and, like, lives. So the first time she flies the Falcon, she's, like, the greatest pilot there ever was.
Yeah.
And then
the hyperdrive.
Yeah, then later, like, yeah, when they're hiding from the Rathtar, which was the worst scene in the movie. Yeah, she fixes some stuff underneath, and then she's super good at the Force. Like, she'd never used the Force, and all of a sudden, like, she just like mind controls a bunch of stormtroopers and like shoots back the infiltration of the mind back at Kylo Ren, and just is an awesome lightsaber duelist. Like, she was just too good at too many things right off the bat.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier about how the script is written to move the movie forward. Like, so whenever she needs a power to move the scene forward, she just gets it.
Yeah.
There's really not much explanation or building up for it. And, you know, big fans of the movies are constantly coming up with excuses like, well, you know, she's there to bring balance to the Force, so the dark side is really strong right now, so naturally she'd be really good at it, right? And it's like, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, no training. She didn't even know what the Force was. Like, Jedis were basically mythos at that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
And yeah, like you said, she's never flown a ship before. Like, it almost like infuriated me when she fixed the Millennium Falcon. It's like Han and Solo, and Han and Chewie have been flying that thing for like 50 years or something. They at no point could have fixed that themselves or found a shop that could fix it, but she just, no, I crossed the hyperdrive thing, and I fixed the ship. It was just like so bad.
yeah. All right, so moving into episode 9. Are you excited about it?
Not really. The last movie just ended off on such a weird point. It's just hard to get hyped up for it. Like, outside of the fact that it's new Star Wars, like, I just don't even know what to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
the way it ended, they could literally do whatever they want with the plot, and so therefore I have like no anticipation for anything.
Yeah, I'm very concerned that Force Awakens was a remake of New Hope. In my eyes, Last Jedi was a remake of Empire Strikes Back. I'm really dreading going into episode 9 and having like the first like 20 minutes of them doing something that has nothing to do with anything else. Like in Return of the Jedi, they spend 30 minutes saving Han Solo. That has nothing to do with the rebellion, has nothing to do with the Empire, it has nothing to do with Darth Vader, it has nothing to do with the destruction of the second Death Star. It was just, we have to do this thing, and now the movie can start. So I'm really dreading that. Like, the first 20 minutes is going to be them doing something, and then the First Order comes in, and then like the actual plot happens. They're gonna.
Do you not like that opening part of episode 6?
Oh no, I love it. It's just when it comes to like the story of the rebellion versus the Empire, it has nothing to do with it.
Okay, so you're saying because episode 9 doesn't really like episode 5 left off with us. We know that Hans needs to be rescued, so that's something that we can anticipate going into episode 6. But episode 8, we don't have any of that.
Yeah, but no. What I'm saying is like because 6 had like this side mission for the first half hour of the movie, I think episode 9 is going to have a side mission for the first half hour of the movie, and then we're going to get back to the resistance against the First Order storyline. So it's going to. What I'm saying is I dread that it's going to be a remake of Return of the Jedi. There's going to be some kind of ultimate weapon that they have to destroy. They're going to be together for a little while, and then like, okay, Poe, like you lead the resistance in the space battle. Finn, you lead the resistance in the ground battle to turn off the shield. And Rey, you're going to fight Kylo Ren and do your personal storyline, basically. Like, I just dread that it's going to be a remake of Return of the Jedi. I'm hoping it's not, but based on the last 2, like, I'm thinking it's going to be.
Yeah, it is J.J. Abrams again.
Yep.
I feel like he's not. It's like he's not really the best at paying attention to the details. You know, putting like love into his work.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at the planets that he made for episode 7. Like Jakku it's just dirt.
It's like, Tatooine.
You could argue it's like Tatooine, but Tatooine actually has, it's got an actual town. It's got his, Luke's farm, Uncle Owen's farm on the way. There's this area where the Tusken Raiders live, there's a canyon, and that got expanded even more in episode 1. Like, George Lucas put a lot of work into all these little things.
True.
But Jack doesn't have like anything. It's just dirt, and there's like a little dirt camp out in the middle of nowhere where the movie starts.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
There's no expansion as to what Jakku is, who
Like, it's
lives
very,
there.
and like the planet that Luke's on is basically just a bunch of water with one little rocky area.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like he just doesn't have that same like love for what he's making that George did, and that kind of plays through the movie, and so that might end up happening again in episode 9. Like it's just like they're gonna go to places, do things, but they're missing that thing that really gives it that Star Wars touch. Because like like, even the Lorian the show, like they really get that right. Like, everything they've done in the show, they constantly have little Star Wars touches here, and it's great.
Yeah, The Mandalorian so far feels the most Star Wars since Return of the Jedi.
Definitely.
It's got the grit. It's got likable characters. It's got when they go places, like you said, like you feel like they're actual places that people from this universe live, and it's not just here's a place.
Yeah, a place that's needed for the script.
Yeah, exactly. So
I feel like because I think it's 2 guys that make the Mandalorian. I don't know their names, but I know they love Star Wars from what I've heard, and they've been wanting to make the Mandalorian for a long time.
yeah,
Like
it's
Disney, those 2 guys, and put them in charge of Star Wars.
well, it's Dave Filoni is the guy behind the Clone Wars cartoon series, the Rebels cartoon series, the Resistance cartoon series, and then it's what's his name? The director of Iron Man 1 and 2. He plays Happy Hogan in the Iron Man movies.
Oh, him?
Yeah. He's the creator of The Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but Dave Filoni is like, the next top build. Like when it says, created by, what is his name?
Jon Favreau?
Yeah, Jon Favreau.
Favreau.
Yeah, so Jon Favreau, like, created it, and then, like, the next, like, executive producer is Dave Filoni. And Dave Filoni, in that last episode, when the X-Wings come, they're like, yeah, there's that distress beacon coming from that ship, like, I guess we should blow it up.
Yeah.
He's that first pilot to say, yeah, that's where the distress beacon's coming from. That's Dave Filoni.
Yeah. That kind of goes back to something you mentioned earlier about like loving the sounds of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
How like memorable they are. Like when those X-wings showed up, like I was immediately like pop 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 pop. Like, I knew it was gonna happen. It's like I love that sound.
Yep, exactly.
The little things they get right.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I just feel like J.J. Abrams is missing on. He just doesn't have that touch. Like he, puts together an okay movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the stuff he does, anyways. Like I don't know if he was really the best pick. So from what I understand, they couldn't find anybody to make episode 9. I think most people realize like that was a potential death trap.
Right. Yeah. Because
looking at how divisive episode 8 had been, like I don't want to go into that seat and try to fix that.
Yeah, because Colin Trevorrow at one point was supposed to do it. The guy behind Jurassic World. Yeah, they had the Game of Thrones. Yeah, they had the Game of Thrones guys lined up to do something with Star Wars, but they're not in anymore. Ryan Johnson was supposed to do a whole new trilogy just by himself, but that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that, and I was like, okay.
And then even the Solo movie, half of it was directed by the guys behind the Lego movie, and then they fired those 2 guys and brought in Ron Howard to come and finish that movie. So like, yeah, there's just been like nothing but people dropping out or people getting fired left and right. Like I think the guy behind the remake of Godzilla 2014, I forget his name right now, but I think he was attached to Star Wars in some way at one point. So yeah,
I think you're right. That sounds familiar. It might have been like
yeah, I think it's Gareth Edwards. I think is his name.
Rogue One or something.
Or no, yeah, he did do Rogue One. I think you're right. I think he actually did make a Star Wars movie.
I think it was him. I mean, so far it's probably the best movie put out.
Yeah, Gareth Edwards. He did direct Rogue One. But yeah, so let's go into the Star Wars story movies with Rogue One. How did you feel about that one?
I loved Rogue One. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, a lot of people complain that the character development isn't too great, but it's like it doesn't really need to be that great. They just need to come together and move the story forward, because these are all, they're characters that are fighting in a war, so we know why they're fighting for the most part. But ultimately, we know they're all going to die anyway, so I don't really care too much besides the main couple of characters. But it was like a nostalgia thrill ride. It was closer to the original trilogy than anything else, so there was a lot of familiar elements. And I mean, really, I don't have much to complain about that movie, except for the music kind of sucked. But like when they started like the final assault on that planet, and the rebels were all like, screw what the leaders say, let's all just go, and it has them, it shows them warping in at light speed and stopping and start fighting. Like, I fucking got like pumped up during that scene. I loved it. And overall, I thought it was a great movie. I liked it a lot. I liked it more than The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I think it felt more like Star Wars than the other two at the time did. And I'm in that wheelhouse of the characters were kind of bland, but it worked. I just yeah, for me it was just like the characters were kind of bland. Like there was nothing behind them. They could have all just been played by the same person, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Except for the robot.
Yeah, he was the greatest. Yeah, Alan Tudyk played K2 or K2SO.
Yeah, he was the best character.
Yeah, he was, absolutely. When he died, it was pretty tragic. But everybody else, I thought, like, it could have been anybody. Forrest Whitaker's character, Saw Gerrera, technically that character is from the Clone Wars animated series.
The little short guy, right?
No. Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera was like the...
It's been a while since I've watched it.
The guy that raised her after her dad was taken away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Technically, his character is from the Clone Wars cartoon show. It has nothing to do with it. Like, they just took a name from an existing Star Wars character. It had,
So they could show him die because he's tired of running.
Yeah, but my two least favorite scenes in that movie were the two with Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely gratuitous. Like, it didn't need to happen. The first part definitely. I didn't mind the second part. Watching him toss people around, I think they did a good job of not making him like, he looked like he was badass. Like, nobody wants to fuck with him, but he wasn't like Yoda in Episode 2 where he's doing flips and shit all over the place.
Yeah, it wasn't as ridiculous as the prequels were, or like some of the games like we mentioned, but
and also, I mean, it made sense that he was there too, because the next, Episode 4 picks up like right after that, so he'd be chasing them.
Yeah, him being there isn't a problem, but that first scene where Director Krennic goes and says like, oh, Tarkin's taken over my thing. Can you put me back in charge, please? And he
chokes the shit out of him.
Yeah, but he says an Arnold Schwarzenegger line, "Don't choke on your aspirations, director." Like, oh, come on, Vader. Like, that's not what you say. Like,
that scene didn't need to exist.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't have minded that scene if it wasn't for the Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners. And then the scene at the end, like, I don't know, I just feel 20 minutes after he does that, he lets the stormtroopers go in first, and then he doesn't do anything. Like, was he tired after he killed a bunch of rebels? Like,
Well, you mean when it picks up in episode 4?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the rebels escaped though.
I
And they have
know,
to chase them down again.
I know. And then
And we don't
in
exactly know.
episode 4, it couldn't have been too much longer because Leia still hadn't gotten rid of the plan. So it's not like it was 3 weeks later. Like she would have gotten rid of him by then. So it was like literally the next day, maybe. She's wearing the same clothes. So
That's all she wears.
yeah, but like so, it was like literally like later that day they catch up to the rebels over Tatooine, and the stormtroopers bust into the ship. Why didn't Vader bust in the ship and just kill all the rebels like he did 20 minutes earlier, the day before? Like, so, like you're right. It's not so gratuitous like Episode 2, but for me it was still just a little too gratuitous for the Vader character. Like, you know, if you would have that scene could have been in The Force Unleashed, the video game that we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you mean. It still doesn't bother me, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like something that didn't have to be, because obviously it was a gratuitous scene. It existed for no other reason than to let us see Darth Vader kick some ass.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And what about
the CG characters, like Tarkin and Leia?
It was too much. I thought that very first scene you see Tarkin, where it's just his reflection in the window. If they would have kept it at that, it's like, oh, cool, they brought back Tarkin for like one little scene. It's like, okay, so it ties into Episode 4. Like, this is great. But he was like a main character, like, and it just wasn't right. Like, we're not quite there, and he's in the movie too much.
I mean, I didn't mind his presence in the movie too much. It kind of, I mean, it explains how he kind of takes over the Death Star, which they wouldn't have to if the other character didn't exist, I guess. But then he still would have had to have been there to have the Death Star. Otherwise, we just have to assume that at some point he was given the Death Star for the most part.
Yeah, I always just assume that, since he's a Grand Moff in the Empire, that he was assigned the Death Star. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel like he had to steal it from somebody else who was already assigned to the Death Star. But
the thing is that actually there's actually a deleted scene from Episode 4 when they're at the round table talking and Darth Vader, starts choking the one guy, like, you shouldn't underestimate the Force. Where they cut off some of the stuff before that scene, they're actually talking all kinds of inner politics about like other like officers and stuff kind of being shady and stuff like that. Obviously it's not in the movie, so
right,
they're not beholden to it, but it kind of sets up like they're not all just getting along and perfect operating machine.
Right, yeah, I don't have a problem with Tarkin like stealing it from him, but because that actor is no longer with us, like, to replace him with a CGI character, like, the CGI just isn't quite there to have him in the movie that much.
That's a hard one to say, because it's like his actual CG character in that movie is actually really amazing if you look at it as a still.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it is amazing. It's just not.
They didn't get the lighting, because lighting is the hardest thing to make it seem realistic on a CG. It's like, when you look at a person, there's a million little hairs on their face. There's little cuts in their lips.
Mm-hmm.
There's little wrinkles here and there, and the way light reflects off of all of these little things, like, we notice that. And in the movie, they just didn't do a good job of doing that. But the model itself looked great. And as we've seen from Marvel movies, like, they could make them look pretty damn real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why they didn't get the lighting right in that case, because they definitely had the money, and I'm assuming they used the same team for the part, but like, it could have been better. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I do think the model itself was fucking amazing. Leia's was a little bit off, but Tarkin I thought looked great. Him being there, though, that's definitely a moral question. I don't think I have any that personal.
Yeah, like I said, like the character, Yeah, like the character of Tarkin being in the movie is fine, just because they had to CGI him the whole time. I think they could have used him more sparingly, like Leia. Like she was in it for 3 seconds. Hope, and like that's it.
Right.
But yeah, it still looked really good. It's just our eyes
We're just
know.
really good at it.
Our eyes know what
Humans
is
are
real and
really
what is not,
the
and
model.
yeah. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Do you have any last thoughts on Episode 9 or just Star Wars in general?
I mean, I'm looking forward to what they're going to be doing on Disney Plus for the TV shows more than the movies. Hopefully, I mean, they say Episode 9 is going to be a trilogy that's ending a trilogy. I don't personally think they're going to pull it off. There's just Episode 7 and 8 have very little cohesion as a trilogy, so I don't even know how they're going to end a trilogy, let alone a trilogy of trilogies. I mean, they've already shown the trailer, so this isn't really a spoiler, but Palpatine's somehow back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just silly. I mean, unless they set up a really damn good reason. But thus far, from what's been delivered in the new trilogy, I think good reason. I think they're just throwing him in because it's Star Wars. He's kind of a traditional movie Star Wars character. He's been in pretty much all of them almost. So I'm sure it's gonna be it's gonna be a feast for our eyes. Hopefully, it'll have some fun moments because it is Star Wars. Like even the Last Jedi had a few moments that were pretty fun. I don't totally hate the movie. I just think it's really bad. But yeah, overall, I'm not looking forward to the movie too much. I'll go watch it because I don't want it to be a case where like, oh, it actually was really good, and then I didn't go see it in theaters. Like that would suck. I'd rather go do that, go to the movies, watch it, and have it suck than not go to the movies, not see it, and tell you that it was good. So movie wise, I'm not looking forward to too much, but the TV stuff's been pretty good. I'm looking forward to what else they might pump out in the future.
I agree. The movies, from what I've heard, like they don't have any more plans for episode movies. Like they might do like Star Wars stories as movies, like Rogue One or Solo, something like that.
Yeah, they said they're slowing down.
Yeah, so
Not gonna pump one out a year because obviously, like Solo didn't make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're gonna either go, are we just putting too many out and people are getting Star Wars burnout, or are they gonna actually realize that these movies just aren't that?
Right. So I'm not looking forward to 9 so much. I want to see it. I'll definitely see it, but the shows like The Mandalorian is already like super good. I'm slowly watching the cartoon show The Resistance, which is really bad. But it's Star Wars, so I'm watching it. But and it's just something like I put it on just while I'm like eating, and I got nothing else to watch. But if they produce more things like The Mandalorian, then I think it's going to be all right.
Yeah, that's the thing about Star Wars. It's Star Wars. It's such a big universe. They can make so many things that don't involve any of the main Star Wars characters. Like literally unlimited things. They just gotta use their imaginations. Something like The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and even The Mandalorian, like he goes to Tatooine. He interacted with IG-88 in the first episode. Like, so there's ties to the universe, but he also goes to places we've never seen, interacts with people we've never seen, like. And
exactly. Yeah, that's why it's good. It takes place in Star Wars. We recognize these things, but it's telling its own story that's not connected to the Empire. Like, there's no reason that the new trilogy couldn't have been like that.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as it's expansive, like, just furthering the world, because like the movies have made the universe seem very small. There's only 12 people in the entire galaxy. So
if you're not a Skywalker, you don't make.
Exactly. So yeah, moving forward, as long as they expand, then it should be good.
Yeah, 'cause I've heard sometimes people jokingly refer to Star Wars as like the Skywalkers or Anakin, stop fucking up, or things like that. It's always a Skywalker drama.
All right. Well, with that, thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you, M3. Always happy to talk about Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely. I love talking Star Wars. All right. Well, thank you for listening. This has been Movie Masters. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this channel. And as always, I'm your host, Movie Master Mike, joined by Deebs, reminding you to speak your geek and balance your geek with Geequilibrium.